She has completed her second year in Biomedical Engineering at the University of Hertfordshire, and is currently, and she goes on to do her final year after the end of the summer, all things being well. Currently, Rida is president of the University Student Union and a governor of the University of Hertfordshire. So Rida, could I now hand over to you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Gordon. The main thing I'm going to be talking about today is basically my journey to being the president, and just to give you all an insight of how a student life is at heart. And then I'm going to talk a bit about how students are coping in these difficult times. Let me just put this to slideshow. I'm sorry, you're gonna have a lot of pictures to see today, simply because that's all I had to put into a presentation. Yeah. So as Gordon said, my name is Rida Shafqat, and I am the current Student Union president. And it's been I'm an international student from Pakistan. It's been only 2 years for me at the University of Hertfordshire. This is the first time I've traveled international to any country just for the sake of my education. And I'm just going to take you through my journey as a student. So these are a couple of pictures of me doing all of the engineering stuff that I do at University of Hertfordshire. And being the president is currently my placement. So as I said, traveling to UK was my first international travel. Now, for most international students, this is the most daunting thing they have to think about throughout their life, especially until they actually get to a country, because it's one thing traveling from one city to another to get your education, but it's another thing to travel from one country to another to get your education. Now, the country where I come from has completely different cultural and social norms to UK. So when I came, I was very scared as to what to expect. And these are my actual pictures from my travel. That was the food I had in the aeroplane. I didn't like it at all, I must admit. And that's my dad getting all the luggage and stuff. So yeah, all that time, fully scared, didn't know what to expect. But luckily, when I landed, I found people in UK very helpful and very sweet. Everyone was so kind. They helped me throughout my entire time to actually getting from airport to the university. So really good experience. Again, the background where I come from, we're not really used to making food. Like usually my mom cooks for me, or we've got people come in to cook and clean for us. So when I came in, that's how my food used to look. But then after a couple of days of practice, that's how it started to turn out to be. That's a picture of me in the corner trying to cook and clean, and my mom was so impressed because normally I wouldn't do that stuff at home. Then because again, when I came to UK, I didn't have my family with me. My dad did come to drop me off, but then he had to go back. So I made friends. These are some of my roommates. It was a completely new thing for me to live without family. I experienced that for a good 2 months, but then after that, my family moved here to UK as well. And again, that was a completely different experience. Fully out here, didn't know no one, had to make friends, had to learn how to even go to shopping, because as you can imagine, some of the students are really, their parents really protect them and they really do everything for them. So again, a completely new experience. When I came here again, no new friends. So what I started doing was going out in societies. So at Hertfordshire, we've got more than 150 societies. And just to make sure that I don't feel left out and I actually feel at home, I started to join different societies and go to different events. Then I started looking into different things available at the university. One of them was Students Union. The picture that you can see in extreme left is a Pakistani vice president. And when I came here, I became friends with him, and he actually told me a lot about Students Union, what a Students Union is, what they do. And I was really started to enjoy the student politics. But then at that time, it was literally just a couple of months ever since I've been to the country. So I couldn't really go for a higher position like a vice president or president straight away. So I started to take small steps. We had a Pakistani society at Hertfordshire, but it wasn't active at that time. So when I came in, I reactivated the society and I became the chairperson. These are a couple of pictures again with the vice president and with some of the committee members. And I really started to enjoy the whole leadership, because I know a society is a very small scale of leadership that you get to experience, but still we had to do events for people, for about 100 people or more than 100 people. And again, that was completely new for me. I have never done that in my entire life. So that was a completely amazing experience. And as you can see, we've got people coming and attending some of the events. So that's what I did for the first year. But for my second year, I really started to get into the whole leadership and into the whole student politics again. So I decided to rerun for PACSOC president, and I got the presidency again in my second year. By the end of second year, I was enjoying it so much that I decided to run for Student Union elections. These are the hustings. So just like hustings for any general elections, we have hustings for Student Union elections. I had it was 9 total contestants running for the position of president, and it was completely horrifying for me to put myself out there, because I don't even, English isn't even my first language. So it was really hard for me to actually get out of my comfort zone and put myself out there to run for such a key position, because you're not just representing 150 students or 200 students this time, you're actually representing 25,000 students. And yeah, then these are some of my election memories. I got all my friends to get some pretty posters up for me, campaign for me. I had to paint and all the pretty stuff. And then I finally got elected. Well, when I got elected, I think one of the key lessons I learned from the whole elections process was that never give up on your dreams. When I was planning to run for elections, there were many people who thought that I couldn't pull it off, that I'm just like not gonna win, I didn't have enough chance. There are times when even your friends sort of give up on you, don't have enough faith in you, but I decided to actually keep going and ran for the elections, and I finally won. So that's the day when I won, and a couple of memories again. And that's my beautiful team. It's a team of 4. That's me in the middle, and then that's the rest of the vice presidents. Then starting the job. Now, starting the job was completely awesome and amazing. There is only a couple. That picture that you see on, again, left side is a picture of all the officers in a very key area of the university called the Forum. So when I came into the university, I always used to think, oh my God, that's such a key position. And that banner is so massive and everyone gets to see it. So I always used to think that one day I want my picture to be on there. And once I actually won the elections, it was so, it felt so good to actually see that dream come true. And actually getting my picture up in such like prominent position. And then that's my office. Again, not many students actually get to work in a full office environment. Most people just dream of it, but alhamdulillah, me and my fellows actually got to experience it. Then these are again a bit of things that we did after becoming the president and vice president. We had to go through lots of training. Then we just enjoyed every bit of it. Like, we got to go to different universities, speak to different, these are some of the other presidents and vice presidents from other universities. We got to host so many events as a students' union. And then again, just some more memories of what we've been doing. This is Students' Union Awards, so all the good stuff that I actually got to experience as the president. As a president, again, there are some key things that you get to experience, such as going to the graduations as a governor. Not only one student out of 25,000 actually gets to be on the board of governors, and I had the chance to be a governor this year, so I get to experience all the graduation ceremonies, even though I wasn't graduating. So again, that's really good memory. And then some key leaders as well. I think most of you might know Richard Beasley, who is in the center of this slide. He used to chair the board of governors at Hertfordshire when I came into the post, and he's been an amazing mentor and amazing person to really, and he really pushes you forward. And then at the minute, the vice chancellor, who is in the other pictures, Quentin McKellar, he is again a mentor to me, and he's an amazing example of true leadership. And then this is where we're at right now. I don't have much pictures after this because of the whole lockdown. So I just thought I'll talk you through it rather than showing you pictures. So after all, but when we were about to come to end of our term as the president and vice presidents, we started to see like the spread of COVID-19 actually started, and we had to shut down the university. So this is what we're doing right now, like hosting all of our meetings online and staying connected through MS Teams and stuff. Now, ever since the outbreak of COVID-19, I think the students at Hertfordshire have been facing tons and tons of issues, and we as a students' union, we're trying our best to represent them in these times. Some of the key issues could be loss of jobs. So because of the lockdown, so many students have lost their jobs. Some of the students have to go back home. So the international students, they've had to go back home. Home students are going back home as well because because the university is practically shut. And students are really struggling financially at the minute because, again, just not the loss of job, they still have to pay for the tuition fee. So some of the students actually rely on these jobs to make money for their tuition fees. So they're struggling financially a lot. And at the same time, most of our students are really used to coming to our events, seeing their friends and other students every day. And because they don't get that at the minute, they are really struggling mentally as well because they are fighting a battle of loneliness in these times. But as a university and as a union, we're trying our best to support these students. So the university has set up a hardship fund. So if a student is struggling seriously due to the consequences of COVID-19, the university has said that they will support them up to £300 worth of money. They've let students terminate their contract. So the students who have gone back home and are not living in their accommodation anymore, they don't have to pay for their accommodation anymore, and their tenancy agreements have ended. And on top of that, we're doing lots of online events and online activities. Yesterday, we had someone cook online for our students and teach them how to make brinjal or broccoli, something like that. And we're just doing some online gaming events. We go live every now and then to check up on students. So if they've got any questions, we could answer them. Students are struggling to the new online learning environment as well, because that's not what they signed up for. Many students are seeing this as a distance learning, but unfortunately, this is all the university can do at the minute. But again, we're trying our best to make sure that they are satisfied and they're still getting the education they signed up for or they basically deserve. But yeah, that's basically a really quick summary of what I've been up to as like the president and how I actually got to this position. But I'd be more than happy for you to ask me some questions so I can answer them, and in the process I could maybe talk about some of the other stuff that we're doing.
Rida, thank you very much. Just for your information, Richard Beasley, he obviously paid you to make that little speech, but he is listening to you.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right, questions. I've been given...
Sorry, Rida, do you want to unshare your screen now?
Oh, yeah. Stop share, cool.
Okay, thank you, Rida. Right, I've got some questions that was previously sent to me for you. The first one is, what life skills do you think students should be encouraged and helped to develop at university?
What skills?
What life skills?
What life skills?
Yeah.
Could you?
Well, life skills could be teamwork, communications, problem solving, empathy, leadership.
Okay. I think the main one, again, I think it's because I'm a leader myself, that's why I'd say leadership, is leadership, because even to run a country, you need a true leadership. And if we can produce leaders from these universities, some good educated ones, I think many problems, not just in this country, but many others could be solved, because a true leadership is very important. Like in times like these, when you're hit by a pandemic, or in times like when you're hit by a famine, then you really need true leaders to make sure that the public is surviving and is in good hands. So I think leadership is one of the main ones. I think the institutes these days, they're really swayed by the whole educational side of things, like technical skills, again, very important. All the Microsoft, all the educational stuff, if you're a lawyer, you need to know how to lobby, all of that. That's really important. But I think the most important one is leadership. And the second one would be communication. Students should know how to communicate. They should know how to articulate their ideas. They should know how to articulate what they're thinking. And because that could really help their innovation as well. If they can't communicate what they're thinking, I don't think they can make full use out of their potential.
Okay, thanks very much. Peter Latham has got a question for you, I'm told. Peter, you are unmuted.
Okay. Yes, you has obviously spent quite a lot of time dealing with the crisis. And have you formed any ideas about what you think the greatest changes are likely to be after we come out of this crisis in what's often referred to as the new reality? Have you had any thoughts on that as yet?
I think one of the greatest changes is going to be working from home. I think this is going to continue even after we come out of the crisis. I think the universities are seriously considering not just working from home now, but there are many people who actually work well from home simply because they've got caring responsibilities and all sorts of other things that they really need to do. So I think it is going to bring a bit of cultural change in terms of people not having to physically come to work and still being able to have a job. I really think this culture is going to be promoted a lot after the whole COVID-19 situation finishes.
Thanks very much, Rida. I've got a question here from Joan George, and she's asking, which issues do you think are most affecting students' mental health? Because mental health is quite a big issue at all universities. And how far do you feel provision is provided at universities to meet this need?
I think the main issue at the minute is loneliness. Again, because students are very much used to going out and seeing their friends, going to events every day, or just like going out to their lectures and seeing other people. But having, especially students who are just living in halls or off-campus accommodation and haven't returned home, I think the main or major issue they're facing is loneliness. And that's the main thing that is causing some of their mental health issues. And this has been an issue long before the COVID-19 outbreak. The universities have found themselves in a position where students have had most mental health and depression issues simply because of loneliness. And this is just has become even more of an issue now. In terms of provisions, I think the university does have provisions, and I think there's preventive measures as well. So like students' unions, they usually have a buddy scheme now where they can buddy you with another student without you having to go out and finding friends. They can buddy you up with another student and they can be sort of your friend for the year. Similarly, we are trying to do online events, as I say, so all you have to do is literally join and make sure that you have a good time. And on top of that, I think every university, not just Hertfordshire, every university does have a good well-being center available within the university, that if a student is facing any sort of mental health issues due to any reasons, they can always come and talk to one of the counselors or one of the mental health aided, trained staff members.
Thank you. Peter Latham has a second question.
I have a granddaughter, who's at Oxford. And one of the things we older people frequently hear is of no platforming and what's sort of generally referred to as political correctness. When I speak to my granddaughter about this, she says, oh, it's only a few students, a few politically active students. And in fact, it doesn't apply to most of the students at the university. Have you got a view on this? Because a lot of older people are concerned that freedom of speech is affected by this published attitude of some students at some university students.
So when you say no platforming, so are you asking me if I'm in favor of no platforming or if I'm against it?
I think what you think is the effect of it. I'm not asking your personal opinion, no.
Okay, what I think is the effect of no platforming?
Yes.
What's
the effect of it?
I think in general, the effect of it is to protect some of the other students who might take some of the parts of speech of a speaker to heart. For example, we did have we did have a speaker coming in at University of Hertfordshire, and it was about, they were going to speak about some of the trans community. Actually, we don't even know what they were going to speak about, but they were meant to, they were known for anti-LGBT and trans community. So our students got really concerned about the fact that if they do say something, some of the LGBT plus students will be really affected by it. So I think if students in general do stand up for no platforming, that's simply because they don't want anyone to get hurt.
Okay, right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any other, if people put their hands up, they'll get any questions and we'll unmute you. Oh, Mary's, right, Mary, you're
visible anyway, because I what you intend to do after you leave the university.
Oh, what do I intend to do after I leave the university?
Yes.
So I do want to, as I say, I think I've talked about leadership a lot, but I do want to go into politics somehow, country politics, but I'm not sure about that yet. Immediately after I leave university, I want to find a good job, do that for a good 2 years, and then apply for my master's in MIT, which is like the best university for engineering.
Yeah.
And if I do get into that, after that, after I graduate from MIT, I want to start up my own business.
Okay.
Back home,
right.
In my own.
Back home in Pakistan.
Pakistan, yes.
What is MIT?
MIT is Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It's
in America.
In America, it's the best university for engineering.
Okay, so that's where you'd like to go next.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
good luck with that then. That sounds great. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Right. Any other questions? Oh yes, Peter Barber, is it?
He's muted.
Well, hold on, Peter.
You're so confident that...
Peter, could you go start again? You were muted there.
Oh, okay. Yes, lovely to see you, but you're such a confident person and you've partly answered my question already, I think. I just wondered if you had any long-term political ambitions, because clearly, to me, it looks like you're very suitable to be the next president of Pakistan.
I think that's exactly well, I wouldn't say the next president of Pakistan, but yeah, I think that's exactly, where I'm going for now. I've never thought about going into politics. In fact, I really hated politics when I came to this country. But then I joined student politics and I somehow started really enjoying it. And still, I'm not really sure if politics is something I would want to go for in the future, because there is a lot of dirty stuff that you sort of have to do at times, and I just don't want to do any of that. But yeah, definitely, I think that's always at the back of my mind.
Good, because the world needs people like you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, Rida, I've got a question. If you look on the screens, you'll realize that those of us that have been at university were there a long time ago. And there's been remarkable change in that time. Over the next 10 years, what changes do you think will happen at universities?
For the next 10 years, okay, that's a tough question.
Or 5 years,
Next 10 or 5 years. What change? I think they're going to become more skill-based rather than bookish, if that makes sense. So they're going to become they're going to get more into practical learning. For example, for engineering, rather than having to do lots and lots of textbook stuff for the first 2 years, they're going to be doing more practical stuff, so that you can, so that the skills a third-year student have now, a first-year student can have after 5 years. So after 5 years, a first-year student should have all the skills that a third-year students have now. They're just going to speed up the process of learning and get towards skills more, sway towards skills more than just textbook learning.
Okay, and obviously distance learning you think will be quite important.
I think distance learning will be quite important. I do think people are going to take that, consider that option more seriously from now on. But I do think after maybe a year or two, I think it's going to go back to normal, because from what I'm hearing from students, they don't like it. They really don't like it, because learning is just not getting that information into your head. It's more about the experience, that face-to-face experience, that learning that you get by being with other students physically in the class. And actually students are struggling, because even though they don't have to actually get up and dress up and go to university and stuff, they're still struggling to get up on time and go to the lectures, because there isn't enough motivation. So I don't think that I do think distance learning will be a big thing, but I don't think it will be as much a big thing as it could be.
Okay, that's interesting. Right, any more questions before Colin George?
University seems to be have a very international student body. I wonder how the nationalities integrate, or whether the loneliness that you talked about is actually a symptom of the fact that it's so international.
I think in terms of loneliness, it's not starting with international, I think our university is really good when it comes to international students. International students are not just like put aside into box. We do, as a student union, we do like cultural series, so our international students get to mix a lot with each other, and our home students get to mix with our international students a lot as well. So it is a very integrated environment. It's not very segregated in that sense. We do have certain communities who are really strong, but that's literally just there for them to feel supported and not to create a divided environment. In terms of loneliness, I think some students have anxiety at this, I don't know why, but most students have social anxiety, and they just don't, they hesitate while socializing. And because they don't socialize enough, they don't have enough friends. And due to that, they face the problem of loneliness.
I think just to clarify for Colin, the international student numbers at the University of Hertfordshire are about 3,000 or 4,000?
About 5,000, about 15% of total students.
15% of the total.
Yeah.
Is that an average for most universities?
Yes, is that higher than most universities?
It is a bit higher than most universities, yes. Yes.
Right. Any other questions? Yes, Dottie, I'll need to unmute you.
Good.
You're unmuted now.
Can you hear me?
This is a very powerful tool I've got, Dottie. I can mute you at a moment's notice.
I wish I had one.
That was a very interesting talk, thank you. What made you choose the University of Hertfordshire to begin your university studies at?
Okay, I'm going to have to answer that very honestly. So I did get into most of the Russell Group of universities I applied to, but as an international student, I found them very expensive. I was having to pay about £20,000 to £22,000 for almost every one of them. And at Hertfordshire, I got a really decent scholarship, and that's the reason I started the university at Hertfordshire. But there hasn't been a second that I have regretted it.
Good.
Thank you.
Well said, Rida.
Good.
Just one last chance at questions. Any questions? Oh, yes, Peter. Peter, are you muted? Hold on, Peter, you're muted.
So I'm okay now, right?
You're okay now.
Yeah. You've spent some time in the UK, and you've observed us British and the way we behave. Have you got any comments, any advice? Is there something you could tell us which would make us be better people than we actually are?
Oh my God.
Share with us, let's say. Share with us.
Again, I'm sorry, I'm going to be very honest here. I think, as I said, when I came to UK, I was like very scared, and I found people here very sweet and really helpful. I think at times people do go out of their way to support others, but at the same time, I think one of the main things I found a bit odd from, if I compare my culture maybe to UK culture, is that people here stay in their own zones and they don't come out of that. Like, for example, I really don't know any of my neighbors simply because they just don't like to talk or integrate as much. I mean, if I see a neighbor, I'll definitely invite them in. If my neighbor is standing there, they would never invite me in. And that's a bit, I fully understand that, because everyone's got their own certain boundaries. But I think I'm just used to very much of a extra social, I'd say, culture. And I do think at least knowing your neighbors, at least knowing which people are around you is really good.
Now, Rida, behind one of these screens, there's a girl that's going to university. I think it's 2 years' time. What advice have you got for her?
A girl who, sorry?
Going to university in 2 years' time? Her name is Emily.
Her name is Emily. Okay. Emily, I'm pretty sure she is still in her A-levels in that case. I'd say, Emily, do your A-levels, take your A-levels really seriously. Your goal shouldn't just be to get into a good university. I think it should be really gaining all the knowledge you can from your A-levels, because when you come to university, it's more like there is a lot of support, but it's not as much of a spoon feeding as it is in a secondary or a primary school. And you do have to learn a couple of things just for yourself, and you have to make sure that you are the owner of you are basically the captain of your ship. So if you don't have that good basis from A-levels, then it's a lot of struggle for you to understand what's happening in the first and second year. So please do take your A-levels very seriously.
Okay, thank you very much, Rida. It's been a wonderful experience listening to your fresh approach to life. And as you said a number of times, your honesty. Now, Stort Valley Rotary end their meetings in a very traditional way. So now could I invite you all, those that have glasses, to lift your glasses, toast the Queen, along with Rotary and peace and health the world over.
Peace and health.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, thank you all and good night.